Every year, tens of millions of Americans get pulled over. Most of them have no idea what's actually happening on the other side of the badge. Today, Eric and Dale are going to change that. This is Hard Corner. Today, we're telling you what cops are really watching, what your rights actually are, not what you think they are, and how a simple traffic stop can change your life in under 3 minutes. Dale?
Hey, thanks, Brent. So we're going to break down something that's happened to all of us. I've been stopped by the police before.
I've been stopped more as a police officer than before I was a police officer.
Yeah, because we tend to drive fast. So imagine yourself driving home from work. You've had a long day. You got an argument with your spouse. You got to go buy the grocery on your way home, and you're just not in a good mood. And then you get pulled over. So what do you do when that happens, right? So you're already in a bad mood. So we're going to walk you through the do's and the don'ts, and I'm going to give it to Eric to kind of start covering this stuff.
So let's actually start out with the police officer's perspective, right? Which you guys don't really understand. Number one, a patrol officer in a uniform car, in a uniform, driving around their assigned area, they're answering the radio for calls, but they're also looking for a crime that's what we call afoot. That's a legal term, by the way.
Proactive policing.
So they're doing some proactive policing, and they may see a vehicle commit a what we call a traffic violation. Could be a number of things, very small, minute, no big deal. But they're going to pull that car over. Number one, most of the time, they don't even know who's driving the car, especially if you have tinted windows. We can't see in the car, typically don't know who it is. But we decide to pull that car over. We'll come up with our lights and our siren, typically lights first, try to get your attention. And then if you don't pull over or recognize that you see us, we're going to hit the siren a couple times to kind of get that audible alert. Then the traffic stop's on, right? So you decide, I'm going to stop for this officer and get pulled over and deal with, what's about to happen. So a lot of times you'll see the videos, a police officer will pull the car over and a couple things will happen. The officer gets out of their car, they walk up to the car and they put their hand on the trunk and they touch the car. Everybody sees this and they think that is a normal way of operating. I can tell you that is a myth. Old school, long time ago, they told police officers to do that so they could put their fingerprint on the car. And by doing so, if that car committed a violation on the officer or an assault, they could then identify that car later. Guys, that's not... I've never done that ever in my whole life.
That's another Hollywood myth, which we're going to cover in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. So the officer, while they're pulling their car over, a couple of things are taking place. Number one, they're calling in their location to the dispatcher, telling them where they're at. They're telling them what they're doing, and they're giving a description of the car along with the license plate.
Why do they give the license plate for?
The license plate?
Why do they give that information to the dispatcher?
So that they can run the vehicle's information while the traffic stop is happening so they can determine who the car belongs to and where it's registered or if the plate is stolen.
Or the car is stolen. Or it could be an Amber Alert. There's a number of different alerts they'll put into NCIC, which is the National Crime Information Center. It houses all of the data that police use for intelligence whenever they're doing work.
Yeah. And so this is all trying to take place simultaneous. This is all happening at once. So the officer, first thing they do is they look and see there's no traffic so they don't get run over. I can tell you this. I do not ever want to pull a car over on the interstate. It is the most dangerous experience you can ever have, having a semi doing 85 miles an hour 2 feet off of your left hip as you're standing at a vehicle talking to somebody.
When I was on the beat many years ago, Hospital Curve, which is a very dangerous stretch of highway, interstate in Louisville, was on my beat. And when I tell you this, I mean this 100%. 100%. I'd rather get shot at than be up on there working a wreck for 2 hours because it is the most dangerous spot you can be in. So that's I'm not disparaging traffic officers. It's just something that I never wanted to do. Pulling cars over like that was never something that I ever thought, hey, I want to do that one day. So that was out of our purview, so to speak.
And I can tell you in my over 25 years or so of experience, I've probably written a handful of speeding tickets.
Right.
Handful at best.
And that's one more thing I'll say before we go to the do's is in the police world, you have different tracks. You have people who want to work traffic. That's how their mindset is. You have people who want to go to SWAT. You got people who want to be investigators. You got people who want to
stay in patrol.
So you kind of figure out what your niche is and then you kind of go forward with it. So that just point that out there. So yeah, Britt, go and bring up the graphic, please.
So what we're going to ask you to do is if you get pulled over by the police, try to pull over as fast as you can, safely as you can. A lot of times it's going to be in a bad location, or the officer is taught to pull you over in a safe location. So you may commit a violation a half mile down the road, but you don't get pulled over until a half mile later because the officer was waiting for a safe location to do so. We know officers that have been killed in their vehicle from traffic being basically running in the back of their car because it was a bad location.
And that's something else. We're going to have another podcast later on about like worst days as bosses. And that very same thing happened on the expressway.
So pulling the car over, we want you to recognize the officer. A couple things you can do. Turn your turning signal on. We typically want you to pull off to the right side of the road because typically you drive on the right side of the road. So we want you to pull off on the right side of the road if possible. If you can find a parking lot or an open space, that's preferable. Turn on your blinkers. Turn on your hazard lights. If you don't have those, maybe raise your hand out the window and wave, hey, I see you, but you're waiting to pull over somewhere, safe. Another thing somebody may say, well, it's too dark and I don't know if it's the police. Okay, I get that. Maybe drive to a gas station that's well lit or drive to a populated location that also has a lot of people for witnesses. That's okay, but don't do that 100 miles an hour. Probably do about 25, 30 miles an hour, generally speaking, and pull off to a safe location. As soon as you pull over, what I'm going to recommend you do, you don't have to turn the engine off, but if you do, that's a nonverbal communicator to me that, hey, I'm going to comply.
Well, it's also a de-escalation tactic on your part so that officer, not that he's going to be at ease, but at the same time he's like, okay, or she, when they're walking up, because I'll mention this about traffic stops. No two traffic stops are alike, and you can pull someone over for the normal speeding ticket and get in a shootout. It's just you never know. So
I knew an officer one time that pulled over on the interstate to help a stranded motorist, and they shot at him because they thought they were getting arrested for a robbery. He had no idea who they were,
trying to help.
And got to a shootout over what he thought was a stranded vehicle. So when you pull that vehicle over, you turn the engine off. Another thing that we're looking for is I want to see the lights switch from the brake through the reverse light and then off. I want to see you put that car in park, and I can do so by watching the brake lights. So get your foot off the brake, get the car in park, and we're watching for that through the lights. Next thing you can do, roll your windows down. Especially with, in today's age, most people have illegal windows because they're illegal tint. I can tell you most officers don't enforce it. It's just not something they do. They're too busy. So roll the windows down so we can see.
But real quick, viewers, just so you know, if you have a legal tint, you can get pulled over just for that tint.
And you can get a ticket for it.
Yeah, just so you know.
So if it's nighttime, something else we're going to recommend is to turn on the dome light in the vehicle so the officer can see in the car, right? So these are all nonverbal de-escalation techniques that we advise for you to de-escalate before the officer even gets up there. And then lastly, we want to see your hands. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what you're wearing. If I can't see your hands, I'm nervous. So put your hands on the steering wheel. You don't have to stick them out the window and hold them up. Obviously, that's going to be a little too much. But just put them on the steering wheel or have them visible where we can see your hands. Now, here's what everybody thinks. I love watching the videos out there where everybody's like, oh, I'm going to do this and say that, and I know my rights. Do you? Do you know your rights? Number one, when the car's pulled over, as a driver of the vehicle, you, by law, have to give your driver's license. Now, understand, we're going to talk about Supreme Court law. Supreme Court law is a national level rule that most agencies, most states have to abide by. I'm sure there's all kinds of stipulations and little variables across state and jurisdiction and counties and cities. We're talking about Supreme Court law. Supreme Court says, as a driver, you have to show your license, okay? Driving a vehicle is not a constitutional right.
Privilege.
It is a privilege, and it can be taken away.
That's what I tell my kids when they want to get their license. I'm like, this is a privilege. This is not a right.
Not a right. So you have to show your license. Secondarily, you have to show proof of insurance. Old school, back in the day when we were on patrol, we asked for that little bitty piece of paper that you keep in your glove compartment. Nowadays, it's pretty accepted that they show it on a phone, but they have to have an expiration date identifying that their insurance is in that vehicle.
And you all in the comments can fact check me. I believe now, too, that when NCIC runs you, the vehicle, it'll say if it's insured or not, and it gives the actual expiration date. I could be wrong, but I think that's a thing now.
Yeah, that's before my time, or after my time, I'm sorry. A lot of people say, oh, you got to show your registration. You can, but it's on the license plate, guys. Like, you don't have to have the registration or the title in your car, but you have to have a license and you have to have insurance, okay?
I would actually advocate to never have your title in your car, because guess what if your car gets stolen?
Yep. Now, let me ask you this, Dale. You get pulled over by the police. Do you have to say anything?
I don't have to say a word, folks. So when we do these kind of episodes, and we're going to have a secondary episode where we actually break down bad encounters, we're going to take it from both sides, like what the police rights are and what your rights are as citizens, because they're both equally as important. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to answer any questions. You don't have to do anything other than what Eric told you, and that's just it.
Now, if you want to cooperate and you want to have a nice, pleasant conversation, by all means, it's your choice. But we're just giving you the fact that you don't have to.
Right.
If you want to talk and you want to answer questions, completely up to you. But you don't have to do that if you choose not to. But you do have to show a license, and you do have to have an insurance card. Now, let me ask you this. You seen the video out there where they're like, I want to see a supervisor. Do we got to call a supervisor?
Nope.
Supervisor does not have to come to any traffic stop ever. Officer does not have to call a supervisor if you request one. It's not a rule, not a right.
And there's if you have a complaint about the stop, there's processes each department has, and none of them require a supervisor coming out. It means you have to go to their location of their unit that handles that and actually file an affidavit of your complaint. So no, the supervisor does not have to come out.
If you want to keep your window up, by all means you can, but you're just going to make it more difficult. And then if you do so, if you keep your window up and the officer's trying to get your license and registration or your insurance card, if you don't give those, can the officer order you out of the vehicle?
Yes, he can.
Absolutely. The officer can order anyone in the vehicle can be ordered to get out of the vehicle at any time the officer requests it. You do not have the right to refuse that. That is a Supreme Court law. Now, remember, the only person in the car that has to show a license or an ID is the driver. No passengers have to show an ID or a license if requested. You can say no. Now, if you want to get into the game, here's my thing. If you're going to play the game, know the rules. So you start playing the game, know the rules, because the minute you start going sideways or you make it difficult, that's on you. That's your choice. So understand, these are the rules that we're trying to explain to you. You have to get out of the car, and you don't have to talk. You still don't have to talk.
Nope.
Okay. So if you invoke your rights, by all means, please do so. But I can tell you this, more times than not, what will get you out of a ticket faster than anything, and it's not guaranteed, is your attitude.
Oh, 100%.
If you give attitude, I can assure you will receive it.
Unless it's a traffic cop, then you're probably not getting
Traffic cops are going to
If you get pulled over on the interstate, good luck for you, because that's the only people that do tickets up
They've
there.
actually given me a ticket. I've gotten a ticket.
Hey, whatever happened to 9 you're fine, 10 you're mine? Is that still a thing or not?
So here's a rule on that, okay? These are general rules. These aren't like written in stone. They're not in a book somewhere. But generally speaking, if you stay, 15 miles under the speed limit?
On the expressway, not on surface streets. So if you're talking...
Okay, interstate.
Yeah, 10 to 15-ish.
You're fine. If you go over 15 miles an hour, you're probably going to get a ticket. And if you go 25 miles an hour over the limit, you're probably going to get arrested for reckless driving.
In our state, I will tell you this, having driven through Ohio a bunch and Tennessee, you're getting a ticket if you're going one over from those people. That's just how they operate. So like highway patrol, so there's like 2 kinds of traffic stops, or 3 really. Interstate, which is just speed only usually. You've got the, people who are driving surface streets, speeding, bad, faulty equipment, no tail light, no turning signal, that type of thing. And then you've got what's called like investigative stops. We're not going to break all those down, but just so you know, if you get pulled over the interstate, more than likely you're going to get a ticket.
Yeah. On a surface street, I'd say probably 10 to 12 miles an hour over, maybe.
Unless you're in a school zone.
But again, these aren't written down somewhere.
Do not speed in a school zone. I'll tell you that right now. A lot of departments get complaints on that, and they'll actually send people out there specifically to do that.
Yeah.
If you're in a school zone, maintain that speed.
All right. So you're talking to the officer. Obviously, you don't have to talk. It's up to you. If you want to cooperate, that's up to you. If they ask you questions, you don't have to answer. Only thing you got to do, some states require you to identify yourself. You have to say your name, but that's usually on your license. And whether you get a ticket or not, it's kind of up in the air. You don't really know. But once the officer Typically what they'll do is they'll go back to their car. They may check the registration, make sure it's all good. They'll check the paperwork. They may go back and call for assistance, depending on if they saw something in the car that looks suspicious. Now, does the officer have a right to pat you down? No. The officer cannot automatically just come up to you and start patting you down. The officer does not have a right to put their hands on you unless they have a reasonable, articulable situation or scenario that they can define a reason to do so.
Suspicion.
Yeah. So they can come up and pat you down based on suspicion, but they cannot reach in your bags or your pockets unless they can articulate a reason to do so. Now, let's go back to reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. To be arrested requires probable cause. To be stopped or detained is reasonable suspicion, and all this falls under the Fourth Amendment. A traffic stop is considered a seizure, it's considered a stop, and it's under the Fourth Amendment. Whether you talk or not is under the Fifth Amendment, in that you can invoke your right to silence. Right? These are all interwoven. This is not a black and white, step-by-step process.
So real quick, I know we're probably getting in the weeds, but like all your rights kind of co-equal themselves out, because the Fifth Amendment is self-incrimination. So like you just need to understand and just read up on stuff. But don't
do basics.
And the other thing I'll say too is, like, if you think you know the law and you want to come off like that right away, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. You better know what you're talking about, because I'm pretty sure the officer most of the time will know what they can do.
Now, I've seen a lot of officers make mistakes as well. Mm-hmm. They go right into the person's pockets, or they go right into searching their bags. You can't do that, right? They can't search the vehicle automatically. There's a little bit of a variable here, because a search warrant for a home is different than a car, because a car is more mobile. So the restrictions on a search warrant for a car are a little less, because the car can disappear while you're trying to get the warrant.
Right.
So they can search a vehicle based on some reasonable suspicion that they think something's in the car. But they cannot just grab stuff out of the car because, they think something's in there. They have to have a reason.
So I'll go and cover one more thing and ask you this, Eric. So we're both carry firearms. You should never make any sudden movements in your vehicle. So when you get pulled over, if your insurance or whatever, your license is in your glove compartment, wait till the officer gets there, and you need to announce all your movements before you even do them.
Correct.
Hey, sir, my license is in my glove box. Can I grab it? And I get pulled over sometimes, and the first thing I'll tell the officer when they come to the window is, like, I'm armed. This is where my firearm is. Always announce that, because you don't want that to be a surprise at the end. Now, how that officers handle that, sometimes they get freaked out, sometimes they don't. I mean, it never freaked me out, because you can carry guns in America. But I would always announce that to the officer.
Yeah, and each state's a little different too on how you carry the firearm in your vehicle or on your person. It varies state by state, so understand the state law. But if the main thing is, announce it and tell them where it is, and don't reach for anything unless you're asked or told to do so.
For sure.
So, Brent, is there anything else listed on that do list?
I think we probably need to get to the don'ts.
Okay.
Don't argue at the window. You're not going to win an argument on the roadside. It's not a courtroom.
That's what court's for.
Yeah.
If you think you're right and the cop's wrong, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take the ticket, or take the warning, and then you have your day in court. You're not considered guilty until you go to court, and then the judge makes a ruling.
Again, we already mentioned number 2, don't reach for anything. You'll see a lot of videos online where an angry person that gets pulled over immediately jump out of the vehicle because they're upset, they're pissed off. Do not ever do that. That is probably the worst thing you can do.
Well, if you jump out of the car on me, I'm thinking 2 things. You're either going to run or you're going to fight.
Or shoot.
Or shoot nowadays, I guess. But it's either run or fight. So I guess shooting's part of the fighting. So that's the first thing I'm thinking. So just stay in the car, stay calm.
Yeah, for sure. So there's another thing too. If an officer asks you where you are at, you don't have to tell them. It's not their business. But don't lie about where you've been or where you're going or what's in the vehicle. Just, if you want to remain silent, just invoke that silence.
Yeah.
Invoke that willingness to be silent. Don't make stuff up to try to think you're going to outsmart them, because if you have any tells and they notice it, you're done for. You know what I'm saying? So for sure.
I got one thing I want to add too. Is a lot of cops, they'll pull a car over and they'll say, "Hey, turn your camera off."
No,
you don't have to.
Nope.
You can record any officer during their duties from any public location you are allowed to be in. You do not have to turn your camera off, and an officer cannot take your camera or tell you to turn your camera off just because they don't like it.
I know of a story I'm not going to mention names or departments, where a young officer confiscated someone's cell phone that was videoing the traffic stop, and he got a hefty suspension for it because it's completely illegal.
Yeah, totally.
So again, too, sometimes officers aren't all the way up on the law. So like,
sometimes the law changes.
Right. But well, I guess my point is you don't question them there. You do it in the right setting, because you're going to get way more out of that than you are if you just want to cause a big scene, give them the reason to lock you up, arrest you. So like,
Probable cause to arrest you.
Exactly. Well, we can talk about that in another episode. Just be as calm as you can and understand you have your rights. And if you feel like they're violated, there's a process for you to be able to get that amended and to get that taken care of.
But we don't want you to do that on the street, because number one, it's dangerous for yourself, it's dangerous for the officer, and it's dangerous for the public.
Right. And then I'll pull something out too. That just because they pull you over, they could be having a bad day too. So a lot of times what I've noticed is like, some people may have issues, like officers, they're having a bad day. It's not good to meet aggression with aggression. Yeah. So it's just be as calm as you can.
Yeah. And are there jerk officers out there? Absolutely. There are. Most of the time, the officers I worked with and experience have been really great. But yeah, there's a handful out there that, are going to cause problems.
Hey, Brent, pull up that last graphic real quick on the don'ts, and then we'll get out of here real quick. Yeah, your passenger's behavior is their behavior alone. If you have someone in the car with you that's intoxicated and they want to act like they're acting like however, don't let that cause you to be in the situation. If something happens with them, that's by their own devices, and that's the reason it happened.
Well, to follow that up too, if there's something illegal in the car and nobody claims it, who's getting the ticket or who's getting arrested? The driver.
There's a couple of tools I've seen people get locked up the whole car because no one claims stuff.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
So hopefully, if you're going to have bad stuff in your car, you've got honest friends. That's all I'll say.
That's a great way.
So the last thing we're going to cover real quick. I know we're running out of time. There's something called a felony stop, which is where you have probable cause to believe that the vehicle you're stopping has been involved in more than likely a violent crime, I would say. I've got a real quick story. I used to work in a very small area, but was very violent, very densely populated. And we had a shooting robbery suspect steal a car, right? At the time, I had a lieutenant that I worked for that was like the stolen car guru. That was his thing. So we find this car a couple blocks away. We do a felony stop. What a felony stop is more tactical. So you pull the car over. Generally, you have to have 2 officers. 4 is better. If somebody gets on the PA or they yell, and they order you out of the vehicle. So if this kind of stop happens to you, don't do what we said before and stay in the vehicle. They're actually giving you commands to get out of the vehicle. Long story short, Eric's going to describe the tactics behind a felony stop. We pull this guy out. He comes to us, put him in handcuffs. Long story short, it was his car. So the car was stolen. It was used in a robbery and shooting, but he found it on the roadside and just got back in his car.
He didn't report it to the police.
He didn't report it to NCIC. So we literally stopped the guy, poor guy, he's an older dude, thinking it was this shooting suspect, and yet it was his car. So sometimes mistakes are made because of there's that delay of information that goes to the police that we've talked about before. So if that's you're a law-abiding citizen, and it happens, just comply, and then they'll figure it out.
Yeah, and you'll get let go. But on a felony stop, you're going to see a couple of police cars pull you over. They'll have their lights on. They'll have spotlights shining on you. Like Dale said, you're going to hear a voice from the distance, maybe from the rear, telling you to drop the vehicle or put the car in park, maybe drop the keys, exit the vehicle, and walk back to them. And what they're doing is they're basically pointing guns at you, at your vehicle, because they suspect that you have used violence in some manner. And so they're trying to maintain that concealment and cover.
And the reactionary gap.
Yeah, and the time gap factor, so they have time to react to any actions you may take. They're not going to walk up to the car. So we ask you to just walk back. They'll probably ask you to walk backwards. When you get there, you may get handcuffed, you may not, and then they're going to determine if you're the person they're looking for. If you're not, typically you'll get let go most of the time. If you are, you're taking a ride down to jail. But if you're not the person and you're going to argue and hoot and holler and all that stuff, you're just going to prolong your event because they don't know. So like Dale said, if you comply, the easier you go, the easier you get let go. It's all about attitude for the most part.
And then again too, so we worked in a lot of I would say high crime areas. So like if you get a felony stop performed on you, understand that's a different level of like intelligence or the stuff that we've got or the police have got. So, but mistakes do happen, like I pointed out.
Yeah. So, and again, mistakes are made. Typically, it's all for the good. But if you follow those basic rules that we gave you, for the most part, you'll be just fine.
Well, hey everybody, if this conversation has helped you, share it, because this is the conversation that doesn't happen in mainstream media, and it should. And if you've had a traffic stop go sideways, or a felony stop, or a moment where you didn't know your rights, tell us about it in the comments. We want to hear from you. Thanks, everybody, for listening in to this episode of The Hard Corner. Join us on the next one real soon. Remember to like and subscribe and share. Thanks, everybody.